Hello and welcome to the Swim Brief. I am Chris DeSantis. I am joined by the freshly shorn Eric Weiken. Eric, how are you?
I want to apologize for everybody who's watching this on YouTube. I needed a break from the beard situation.
It's hot,
Living,
Eric.
living in the Gulf, sometimes you just need to get rid of the facial hair, and it just so happens that I don't have anything on top either, so it looks like I'm a pale egg, and it won't hurt my feelings if you decide to just listen to the podcast this time versus watch us do what we're about to do. So
well, we've got a short one for everybody today. So we're just going to do two things. We've had a job submitted to us for the Swim Brief job analysis, and I also subjected myself to 15 minutes of a Swimswam breakdown yesterday. And so I don't intend to do this, every other week. Like I think we did this 2 weeks ago with Mike Murray and Braden Keith, but like anytime I somehow stumble across and actually start listening to something that's over there, it provokes me. And then I feel we need to respond to it. So I'm going to share my screen here in a second, and we'll get right into it. And this is the Swimswam breakdown. You can see here Braden Keith is going to be talking when we turn it up. Coleman Hodges on as well, and QAnon alt-right election denier Loretta Race is in the upper left. Those are true statements, by the way. She blocked me on Twitter after the election for telling her to face the fact that Donald Trump lost the presidential election. So that's the extent of my interactions with Loretta Race. But they're talking about Terry McKeever here, and her, the OC article, and the fact that she's been put on leave now. And I just want to listen to some of what Braden has to say, and then you and I will vibe a little bit off of it, Eric. So here we go. Braden's saying like he's talked to some coaches, and I think it is of note in context for this that I do think Braden is very well sourced within the swimming community. I am sure that he talks to many people, that he has many people talking to him and telling him, their opinion on what's going on. So here we go.
Collaborative, kind of this new model of coach. And the common thoughts I hear are, one, overwhelming talent. And it's not that you can't get results this way. It's what the impact of the results might be after their college careers are over that's a problem. And two, everybody lies on recruiting trips. Cal for a while, everybody sees the Virginia recruiting now, right? And how everybody just wants to go to Virginia. Cal was that program for a while. And everybody lies on recruiting trips. And coaches, a couple coaches said something to the effect of, well, they hope if they just get one more superstar in there that it'll fix everything and everything will be better, which it never does. Of course, it doesn't change things. But basically, nobody is willing to fall on that sword on the recruiting trip when they have a potential Olympian standing in front of them, say, you know what, don't go here, go to Stanford, go to Virginia, go to Texas. This is not the place. We hate it, blah, blah, blah. And so then they get there and then it's too late.
Okay, so point one, sorry, what he's describing there is sort of his take based on talking to people on why this happened at Cal. So Eric, what do you think? Does everybody lie on recruiting trips?
Yeah, it's hard when there's words used like they, because it doesn't help any of us until we're like 3 or 4 sentences into it who the they is.
I know. Well, that's my fault, not Braden's fault, right?
No, because in that statement, they are swimmers.
Oh yeah,
they are coaches.
Oh, now we're going grammar on him. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and but it's like I can't stand the generic. Well, everybody else says, and this is. I don't think everybody lies. I don't think every program lies about how great it is. I think there are certain circumstances where athletes feel an overwhelming amount of pressure to upsell a program if they're not one of the kids who are necessarily enjoying it because they may think that their experience is isolated. So why should they tell them about some of the crappiness that they're dealing with relative to the entire program? It just so happens that a lot of this program may feel that way. So
I'm just letting it run because there's an ad coming, and I don't want to
yeah,
I don't want people to subject the ad. I turned the sound off and let
so
that.
I don't think everybody lies, or everybody has athletes that necessarily quote unquote lie. It's just it's hard for an athlete to project their experience. But when it comes to what is being alleged out at Cal,
yeah, you got to imagine some of those people
that lends itself to definitely holding back certain cards, because
yeah,
they feel a certain level of, I don't know, dedication to the school itself. They're thinking about Cal and the team getting better, and they're putting their own experiences on the back burner with the idea of this is going to improve the team. I don't think it necessarily from the standpoint of we get somebody fast here that will be treated better. It just means you're going to be lower on the totem pole if you're not one of those top 5-10 kids. But I don't know. I hate generalizations.
Yeah.
I mean, and it kind of makes you wonder how much interaction there are between the men and the women's teams in, at Cal, at other institutions where it's men and women separate, because we obviously seen this happen in all kinds of programs, right? And separated and combined. But some of the things that were being reported, you would think that someone else outside of the program would have noticed and maybe said something, or maybe they did. And as you said, Braden, the administration just kind of wrote it off and turned a blind eye.
I have a thought as you say this, Coleman. And so Cal, women's only program, female head coach, the majority of their assistants.
All right, here it is. Everybody get ready for this. Sorry, this is the part I really wanted to queue up.
Have been women. The administrator they report to, who is the number 2 in the Cal athletics department, is a woman. There's a lot of talk in collegiate sports. The reason this idea of a senior women's administrator, the reason it exists is the idea that it's at least some check on the sort of male dominated world of sports. It's not that it's suddenly the woman has this, the senior woman administrator has this grand authority over everybody. It's just trying to break up the old boys club a little bit in terms of reporting problems or having leverage within the department, et cetera. In this case, that system seems to have failed, right? Because there were many, many women who could have intervened and some of the assistants may have, some of the swimmers are hinting that some of the assistants may have intervened in some way, but it didn't change the outcome, right? Until this became public, it didn't stop whatever was happening from happening.
Okay, this is an absolute nuclear take. This is the one I wanted to get to. If I follow this correctly, the point of having a senior woman administrator in athletic department is to prevent what happened from happening. And now this is evidence that that system has failed. What do you think, Eric? Help me out here.
I guess, I don't know. It's terrible irony at best, I guess is the way I see it. Now, if your argument is to combat crappy, quote unquote, crappy men from doing the things that
gender discrimination or
by having women come in, I think it's just more just describing it as he does. It's like I said, it seems more ironic than it does seem like necessarily, I guess, a failure, because the long and short of it, it doesn't matter what gender this senior administrator is.
Right.
It was a human being failed other human beings. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know what else to say other than it is ironic that, but I don't.
I feel like people who know me know, like,
It just
I feel
doesn't
very
seem like a senior women's administrator's sole purpose is to stop, or is it to stop the good old boys network from continuing to cover things up so much as it is to make sure that there's representation in administration and making decisions and keeping things
Right.
in mind as far as a woman's experience in athletics.
right.
I don't.
I think it's there because historically athletic departments are horrible in terms of gender equity. And we have all sorts of attempts to sort of correct that institutionally. And this is certainly one of them, but I think it's such a wrong framing to put on this situation, which in my mind is not really about gender and far more about people with the power to be horrible to other people using that power. You know
Yeah,
what
and
I
the
mean?
protecting somebody of
Right.
alleged discrimination, alleged abuse, who happens to be the godparent of your child. Like,
Right. And that happens to just, to me, to be far more gender neutral than anything. Like, that is something that happens when there's a male coach and a male administrator, a male coach with a female administrator, a female coach with a male administrator. Like, I struggle
crappy
to find.
people will do crappy things. Like,
Yes, and when they have the power to avoid consequences for doing a crappy thing, they exert that power. And that's sort of what we saw here. And so it's such a weird framing to me. I guess I give him the benefit of the doubt that he, as he said, it just came to me. Maybe just keep that one on the inside next time, when something just comes to you, and just think it over. Let that one ferment for a little while. Do you want to listen to any more of this?
if you got more to talk about, sure.
Let's see where it goes here for a few more seconds.
It almost, that's sort of disheartening, because then what's the next solution to this problem from an institutional level? If having women, protecting women from abuse isn't acting them from abuse, what else do we have to do it? And it's just disappointing, because that feels like.
Yeah, again, wrong framing, but I do have a suggestion for you. Perhaps, as we talked about, break up the power structure. Recognize that if you have a long-time successful coach, that person has a potential to do this, and you need checks. You need to be able to check and challenge people, right? Everybody needs that in their lives. Okay. You need it, Eric. I need it. The people that I coach need it. The people that I work for need it. Everybody needs that, just somebody to like sort of catch you and say like, hey, what are you doing, man? Like, you're totally out of line.
Yeah.
So,
and I guess it's just like you said, there's so many, like, where the failures started, because as you and Joel allude to, talk to, it's like you have these exit interviews, you have seniors talking about their experience on their way out.
right.
You mean to tell me, like, so what you're saying is, like, from the very onset of the alleged behaviors, or the early 2000s, apparently,
Right.
Until now, either all of these young women didn't tell the truth on their exit interviews if they made it to their senior year, or they did, and there were not multiple sets of eyes on these.
Right.
So was this senior administrator always seeing these and just brushing them under the rug, or is it multiple people saying, these are just kids who don't understand what it takes to be elite? So And since they maybe weren't fast enough, or they didn't garner NCAA championships, that it just became, well, that's just because they weren't favorites. They justify in their mind allowing a perpetrator to do the things because look at these trophies and look at these gold medalists. So I don't know. It's just, ugh.
You ready to read the job posting? Let's move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Let's move on and look at a job posting. Okay, so we get in here. Somebody sent this to me, and this is like a little bit different than some of the ones we've been looking at. This is some, like, we've been checking out like a 1996 used Ford Escort, like, and now we're like, this is like the Bugatti of swimming jobs in comparison that we're looking at here. So these are Swimming Canada high performance head coaching jobs. One of them located in British Columbia, Vancouver, another one in Toronto, and you report directly to the high performance director for Swimming Canada. So I'm just going to sort of flip through some of this stuff because we get to a part we can respond to it. There's some background on Canada. Aren't we great? We're one of the most successful Olympic sports in Canada. We've got two performance head coach positions. You essentially you have coaching responsibilities full-time at these high performance centers, daily training environment, training camps. And you're also there to develop visitation programs, which I assume are, like opportunities for people outside of the high performance centers to come and, have like a training experience at the high performance center without necessarily being located there. So a very, very pure coaching job. How's that sound to you?
I feel like did I miss the line where it said other duties as assigned?
Right. Where's that part?
Because I feel like if that's not on here, then I haven't gone through everything. But if that's, here it is. Not line 24. Other duties as mutually agreed upon by the senior coach and the high performance director.
Oh yeah, sorry. Scroll all the way down. There we go.
So what that tells me is when that 50-meter lane rope breaks, you're restringing it.
No, I don't think that's true, Eric.
It's not true.
It's not true. It's not true. No, I mean, I think these are like, yes, I guess I did make it seem very simple. And then, you get the primary responsibility. It's like, number one is coaching. Number two is coaching.
All very coach centric.
Report. That's basically coaching.
Yeah.
Be available to go on camps, coaching, performance goals, coaching, represent Canada, coaching. I was thinking earlier this week as I was pouring quick concrete into buckets because we're training outdoors now, and there's no flags at the outdoor pool where we're Wahoo's is doing some training. So we're trying to come up with a solution. I need to start like a swim coach. This is swim coaching meme. Because as you mentioned stringing the lane line, I'm thinking like most people probably don't know that when you get into swim coaching, you might find yourself in the midday heat pouring quick concrete into plastic buckets and then
so you can do backstroke.
Fastening PVC pipe into them so you can do backstroke. But that's swim coaching, man. That's the job. You got to be ready to be a amateur handyman whenever is possible.
Yeah. I love this job description. I mean, if anybody were to say I'm just a deck coach, this would definitely be right up your alley, because there's so much where everything is focused on, like it says, it's the high performance, and all jokes aside, other duties as assigned, you probably have to go to a meet and greet, or there's some investors that are coming in, you got to go to dinner where, wear some nice grown up clothes or something.
Yeah,
But yeah,
well,
I mean,
yeah, I mean, I think, I do think this job description does a really good job as we just keep looking down the list, like, and I'm sharing the screen here, conduct gap analysis, take responsibility on all reporting, ensure all athletes, etc. It's doing a good job enumerating specifically what your coaching responsibilities are without being like super specific to too far of an extent, but not so vague as to, yes, do the catch-all of like, yeah, you're going to do some stuff. And I think unfortunately everybody's dream job in swimming, I think not everybody, look, you already said you hate generalization. So here I go making a generalization. A lot of people I talk to go, I just want to coach, man,
oh yeah,
and even in this job, unfortunately, I think you still have to be in the office doing some politics. Do you know what I mean?
for sure. You can't not be in the office. Any coach says I'm only a deck coach or I don't do admin, that's not, you might as well just volunteer that. Like you might as well just be an assistant at some club that needs another body on deck so they can have their ratios of staff to kids, because you have to be able to communicate with the people that you need to in order to maintain the funding. Like this is Swim Canada, so the money's not necessarily free. Like if the results aren't there, the money disappears, and which means you don't have a job.
Well, you have to do the balancing act, I think, in a job like this of both, ensuring that the swimmers get good results. I mean, you are going to be judged very specifically on results, but you also have to be a good enough politician to first, like, make sure that the high performance director, the person that you report to, likes you. I mean, that's just sort of like, unfortunately, that's how it is. That person has to like you, because them liking you means that they're going to, put a positive lens on everything that you do. And they're more likely to see that you're doing well, regardless of how well you're doing. Right. And then, also be able to communicate upwards and sort of manage upwards that, hey, here's what I'm doing and it's working. Right. So like, you can't just replace me because I'm doing something unique here that is not necessarily easy to just sort of shuttle in a new person to this job. I think it's interesting too. I mean, just context for this too. I think one of these is Ben Titley's job, which he left a number of months ago. So I wonder how exactly long they're going to go sort of understaffed at one of these high performance centers in Canada, in a very tight Olympic cycle. We're already just about 2 years from the next Olympics.
I like point 20. I think this talks to more about that you can't just be a deck coach.
Yeah.
They're setting things up in here where it's like you can't just work with these thoroughbreds. You have to be willing to share, because there's a lot more sharing going on in other places, maybe necessarily in much more organized fashion than maybe here in the US. And maybe I'm just making generalizations, but it seems to me like this is like you are all in on Team Canada. There's no way to go about it. Like the personal attributes, it speaks to it. Like you can't just be always shooting from the hip. There are times when you have to, but they talk about evidence-based training programs. So you gotta have something there. I like the the ethic and the culture stuff it just speaks to, and Canada has a history of being a very friendly country as it is. So you're not gonna be able to come in and not do that.
Right.
Can't just exert your will on an NGB in a swimming community just because you can make fast swimmers.
Yeah. I I mean, I think it's a very limited set of people too who are actually qualified because of how specific they are with some of the qualifications. Like 6 years of coaching international level swimmers. So we're talking about, and my assumption by that is, you're looking at minimum like sort of continental championship level. So like European
it's like-
championship, Pan-Pacific championship, Asian games, like,
It's kind of a 3 2-year blocks. If you think about the alternating international level of meets between worlds and whatever.
Yeah, you need to have been that good across 2 Olympic cycles. And even as I get down here, like because it's a bilingual country, speak French and English, right? Because
it said that would be an asset. So
yeah, I mean, because you have to assume that I remember this interestingly. I worked with some Spanish folks when I was in Denmark, because that was a time period when anybody with good skills was sort of flowing out of Spain. The economy was in such a tough spot at that moment. And one of these guys had been a national training center coach in Barcelona. And this was particularly controversial because if you know anything about sort of international geopolitics, Barcelona is part of Catalonia, which is constantly threatening to leave Spain. They do have a distinct language that's predominantly spoken there, Catalonian. And this guy went down to the National Training Center in Barcelona and insisted on conducting all business in Castilian Spanish, right? And that was a problem. So it's just to me, as like a history nerd, geography nerd, it is interesting to me, some of this geopolitical stuff. And this isn't, it's not like either of these high performance centers are in Quebec or something. They're in essentially predominantly English speaking provinces. But I guess, I don't know enough about Canada to know if they even have a performance center in Quebec. Maybe not. So you're going to get people from Quebec, perhaps going to next or one province over to Ontario. And it's going to be good if you can speak some French. Yeah. All right. Well, I think this is actually old, and now I look at it, it's from March 31st.
but the deadline is approaching.
Yeah. I'll be very interested to see, these are two really high profile jobs with stringent requirements, to see who they end up with.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously this position is going to be well compensated, but it's one of the things that I noticed as I got through this whole thing. Is
right. It doesn't say.
It doesn't say. And you see that a lot on Swimswam as well. If you're a head coach and you're trying to hire assistants, I know sometimes it's maybe embarrassing to put that salary thing up there, right. But if you don't, you're stringing applicants along. It's really grossly unfair to not post salaries.
Okay. Sorry.
Because there are some people who are going to be able to make that work, and there are others who certainly not. And don't waste your own time talking to applicants who aren't going to move for the minimum wage that you could pay them versus those who are in a situation that can. So that's just one public service announcement to anybody who's looking to post for jobs here coming into the short course season. Be nice to yourself, be nice to them. Let them know.
Oh, no, I think it's a good advice, Eric, because more and more people I'm talking to, everybody's having a heck of a time hiring out there in the swimming world. I hear it more and more and more. I've been doing some recruiting myself here at Wahoo's because we need more staff. And remember calling one place and they said, we've had like what we think is a good head age group coach position just sitting there for 6 months with no applicants. Somebody I talked to told me that. And I'm hearing stuff like that more and more. And I think if people want to not be understaffed, you got to change a bit of how you're posting jobs or thinking about how you're going to get people in the door to apply for your jobs. I know you got to go, so I'm going to let you go. There's a quick one this week. Thanks for everybody for listening, and we'll be back again next week. Hopefully Joel will be back from his winery tour, and we can resume with him. All right. Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye.